for a while. I don't know how long I'll be on, but I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about. Oh, let's see, what's the big controversy this week? It's the Odyssey. Now, Christopher Nolan decided he wanted to make the Odyssey, and that's fine. Don't really care. And it doesn't work for a lot of people now. It looks like it made a lot of money in previews. Uh, Yesterday, like I think they said 16 million. They're looking for it to make a like 120 million or something through this weekend, and it's got good audience score from Rotten Tomatoes. But what is the problem? Here's the problem: the people of Greece are completely non-existent in this casting, and the reason why I bring this up is because I'm old enough to remember when you turn on an old movie made in the 40s, 50s, 60s, that you would have white people playing Native Americans, right? And I'm not, and there were people complaining about that. And in the 70s, that changed, and we ended up getting some great Native American actors like Graham Greene, um, and there have been plenty of men and women uh, acting or actors that are Native American. And when it comes up for a Native American role, the casting director goes for that, right? The casting director goes for that. So you've got that going on here. Now, the problem that I see in the hypocrisy is they have absolutely no problem blackwashing a white character, right? I mean, let's look at the Harry Potter TV series. The great Alan Rickman played Snape, right? Severus Snape, probably a lot of people's favorite character, right? One of mine. And they blackwashed him. Why? Well, there are tax incentives to do that. And with the actual actor that played the character in the movie's gone, he passed away, as you all know. It makes perfect sense that they would uh, go for a completely different look. And J.K. Rowling, uh, being who she is, didn't complain, but a lot of people did, and it's hypocritical, right? You have a movie where you need a Latino actor, you're going to go find a Latino because the part's for a Latino. If there's a part for a black actor, you're not going to whitewash that actor. You're going to give the part to a black actor. So why, when we're looking at the creation of the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's, first off, instead of actually using the actual source material, the like getting a correctly translated um, source book, he got one that was written in 2017, and I can't remember the woman's name, but she wanted to subvert the story because with what the Kathleen Kennedys of the world and the uh, you know Leslie Headlands, etc. say. Um, she was it's problematic. Now, I can't remember what part of antiquity, like what year, where Homer, who was, in my opinion, a real person, um, actually came up with this stuff. Okay, probably or at the Mycenaean civilization, and then there was sort of like a dark, like a sort of medieval sort of dark time, and then classical Greece emerged, right? So it was at that time that the Aeneid, which is the story of the attack on Troy, and the Odyssey were created, right? Homer was a blind poet who was basically a bard. He went from place to place telling these stories about, uh, this mythology. Achilles was like he was the son of a god, so he was a demigod, and Helen emerged from an egg, right? And a lot of that. And what I find really sad is that these stories are part of the Greek civilization, not just Western culture, but part of Greek identity, right? But because the Greeks are white and because they're the first definite Western uh, culture, they're not getting any respect here because they're white. So Nolan, who's looking for Oscar bait, wouldn't cast Margot Robbie as Helen. He wouldn't cast Sydney Sweeney as Helen. He wouldn't cast Diana Kruger. She was great in Troy. Wouldn't cast her. You find me a brunette that could play Helen. All right, anybody. Helen of the fair hair and the white arms. So she probably wore a dress that was like this so you could see her arms. And, that's a big deal. Instead, he casts the person behind Maz Kanata. All right, Maz Kanata. And I don't want to sound racist, but it's a little bit hypocritical after, decades and decades of casting white people to play Native Americans, um, Latinos, uh, Asians, right? There were white people that played Asians. Um, you know, we go and basically blackwash one of the founding mythologies of, Western culture, the Odyssey, right? Um, and it's like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? And, Christopher Nolan, you know, he doubles down on this shit. He's doing this to pander to the Oscars, to the left wing, self loathing, white Oscar panels, right? Let's go to the other thing. There's a character named Sinon, and he's from, I think, one of the Virgil myth, I think. Um, I'm not sure, I can't remember. And he's, you know, supposed to be the equal of Achilles. Remember how cool Brad Pitt was? Look, Brad Pitt is a decent actor, but he's not Laurence Olivier, but he did a good job. He looked the part. Um, and this character Sinon is played by Ellen Page, right? By Ellen Page, not Elliot Page. I will not enable her insanity. All right, I won't enable her insanity. And so you're going, what the fuck? All right, if you want to see something really hilarious, look at the video where she comes walking out. It's obviously a woman. You can take all the goddamn testosterone and steroids you want. You're never going to be a man. Okay, Ellen? You are 5'1". Her bodyguard for this little joint venture outside gotta be 6'3". He could actually be a Secret Service agent. They walk out and he looks like a Wookiee. He looks like Chewbacca to Leia. That's how big he is. It was ridiculous. And then, so the studio is trying to protect uh, different visuals and stuff, and they're basically copywriting stuff. Like there's a clip of Ellen Page running like a girl in the sand, and they pulled it off of X. They don't want people to see it because they want your money, right? Now, to be honest, it's got some good. It's got some really good reviews from the audience. But as someone who has looked at the history of filmmaking, seen miscasting go on for Native American actors and Asian actors and Latino actors, etc. They look. They wanted to cast Ryan O'Neal as Michael Corleone, all right, because they wanted a movie star. It's like there aren't any Italians, and Francis Ford Coppola was right. Al Pacino was the best for that role. He was right, and he was also right that Marlon Brando was the best to play Vito. This is where things started changing. You have to get the correct people to play the right roles, and I don't see Ellen Page being. I mean, my dog, who is neutered, is more of a man. My horse is more of a man. In fact, my horse would be a better casting of Helen than Lupita Nyong'o or whatever her name is. Why? Because she's English, at least. She's an English thoroughbred racehorse. Okay? You think I'm being facetious here, but why would you do that? If getting an Oscar, you're such a self-important, fake director, such a fake auteur, that instead of saying, okay, we're just going to make this movie, we're going to do it right. Try to get like Harrison Ford. He says, I don't give a shit about the Oscars. And he didn't. Here's the deal. When he and Peter Weir were nominated for Witness, neither of them went. Neither of them went. They didn't take it seriously because it's bullshit. And it was bullshit then. And it's bullshit now. But when you're a self-important genius like Christopher Nolan, there you go. And I mean, I'm like, the visuals don't make up for what the fuck did you do this for? And by the way, and kind of like doom scrolling through X and Facebook, a lot of people in Greece are pissed off. They filmed it all in Peloponnese and didn't hire one Greek actor. No, not one. Not one. And, if you went out to Montana to do a movie about the Little Bighorn and you got the right guy to play George Custer, lanky, blonde hair, fair skinned, sunburned, and then you went and found a 6'3", blonde haired, blue eyed guy to play Crazy Horse, the entire world would erupt. Right? The entire world would erupt. That's the problem. The hypocrisy of blackwashing Helen of Troy is not just, it's like you blackwashed a white woman because why? Okay. The hypocrisy is you wouldn't do that to anybody else, but to a white woman, to a white character, to a white male character, you would do this. Why? Because you're a guilty white asshole. Now let's quick get into the well, I'm going to talk about what the movies, Star Wars movies under Kathleen Kennedy. Hey Dave, how you doing? Under Kathleen Kennedy made. So we've got The Force Awakens, $500 million. TLJ, $324 million. The Rise of Palpatine, $48.3 million. And if I can, hopefully I have all this all written down. For Solo, You lost $76.9 million. All right, no, for the Rise of Palpatine, yeah, I was right about that. Rogue One, you made $258 million. That adds up to about a little over $1 billion. Right? Now, I asked Grok how much money did Disney invest in these franchises, the Star Wars franchise, Lucasfilm. Grok said estimates say about $10 million, $10 billion. You got to think, how much money did it cost every year to make Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, Ahsoka, the Trashlight. Trashlight cost about $250 million, right? That's as much as a big budget movie. And a lot of that money Disney ended up having to pay because Kennedy basically had Headland out in the Azores with a handheld filming bullshit just to get something up there for a sizzle reel so Disney would have to be forced to do it, right? And they end up spending an ungodly amount of money on a TV show no one liked. But when you think about all the money that was invested, 10 million, 10 billion, and then Grok said, I asked him, all right, how much money did Disney actually make off of Lucasfilm? And Grok said estimates are about 12 billion. And I'm like, no, no, no. If they spent almost $2 billion making the first 5 movies, and I haven't even added Dial of Destiny on this, and they only got a little over $1 billion in net profit, hi Kim, it's like, all right, granted, the OG sells merch, the PT sells merch. There's a reason why Anakin's everywhere. The Grogu sells, right? And you're looking at it going, there's something wrong here. All right. I mean, it's not hard to get the numbers. There's all you gotta do, go to Google and put in your search, box office. Just put box office, and you'll find a website. Oh God, boxoffice.net or something like that. You'll find it, but it has how much the movie cost to make, how much it earned, and it breaks it down to budget, then tax reimbursements, which Hollywood will, or both California and the state of, or the UK will give out tax reimbursements, which like you spent $250 million on making a movie, you might get 70 million back. All right, and that makes it okay, and you might break even. There's absolutely no reason, in my opinion, right now, to look at Star Wars as a viable franchise if that's what's going on here. And the idea that they did get rid of some people. Last year they got rid of Kristen Hidalgo. She got laid off and completely left social media, which is. But Pablo's still there. Pablo's still there. It's like the fans remember, right? Now I'm gonna let you guys go with this. Here's the problem, though. All right, listen very closely. George Lucas said that studios rely too much on focus groups, right? Remember how you discover that they'd be following around the Raylos to see what they thought of this or that or the other thing. And it looks to me like Kennedy was like that with that shit. George said it would be nice to understand why certain um, characters were disliked, but the fans should not dictate what the creators make. And no one ever dictated to George Lucas about anything that he made, from A New Hope to uh, Crystal Skull. Right? They wrote their stories. If you liked it or not, it was their thing. And when you've got somebody like Kathleen Kennedy, who's like encouraging blue-haired land whales and this Raylo shit, and she's basically saying, give the fans what they want. Now, granted, George has said the same thing, but his idea of what we want is something new to see, a new planet, a new different part of the universe you've never seen before, new creatures, new ships. Okay, Kennedy thought because the Raylos were so loud and got a big part of the attention, we wanted to see, the abusive, uh, skull fucker, Kyle Ron, Daddy Butcher, and Ray. Because what she doesn't understand, but because in her mind, Anakin coming back and saving Luke was akin to Kyle Ron doing the same thing. No, it's not. It's not. It really isn't, because there's no backstory to it. There's no relation to him in this. And the Raylos come up with this forced dyad. What? First off, you can write a book trying to explain Ray and the mother-daughter relationship she has with Leia, which she didn't, but okay, whatever. You can which basically mocks Luke and Han, and it's written by an angry lesbian named Rue. God, what's her first name? Madeline Rue. Um, it's like, look, all of this shit was created because the creators weren't confident enough writing a story people actually would like. And George is right. The fans don't know what they want. Right? Now, it would have been very easy for the guys at Lucasfilm and Disney to say, George, we have the script treatments you gave us, and we like them, but there's this stuff in the EU, and we're thinking we're going to get a really good writer. Yeah, well, she's in New York, so I don't know. Hey, Cross, we're going to get a really good writer, okay, and we're going to try to take the best elements of both and work out a story. Give it to Michael Arndt. Okay, let him work it out. But no Ray. Oh, I forgot about that. I mean, no Ray, no Kyle Ron, none of that DEI shit. Okay, here's the deal. It was also propaganda, right? I mean, everybody knows what Pablo Hidalgo is. He is a fucking dirtbag from Chile, who should, I would like to know some things about, does he have a green card? Does he have a work visa? Why is he here? And, well, Kim, it doesn't exist. There is no Bond. This is all Raylo headcanon. And it's like the fucking stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. But here's the deal. I forget who said it. Propaganda in its end form is created to humiliate whatever person or cause or institution that the people on the left hate. Okay, so when you get to the Star Wars sequel trilogy, um, J.J. Abrams obviously hates families, hates nuclear normal families. He hates marriage. And what's the biggest humiliation that they did in these three movies? Drunk deadbeat dad Han Solo, the white man bad, and coward Luke hiding off on some moon or planet called Achu or Actu or whatever the fuck they called it. And it's like, and then of course Leia, you know, and instead of having Han be the hero, they devolved the character because they wanted to humiliate the men. They wanted to take away their agency and give it to Ray, give it to Vice Admiral Gender Studies. You know, all of this stuff, right? Give what Luke and Han were to people because you have a black stormtrooper, you have an angry Vietnamese Maoist, you've got a lesbian pansexual freakazoid, and you've got an angry girl boss who has absolutely no business at all doing any of the shit she did because she doesn't know what she's doing. I mean, she just does it. I bypassed the compressor. Han's going, oh, because he wouldn't know to do that. But again, this is all woke DEI propaganda to erase, not just humiliate, but to humiliate and erase the men, the white men. Okay, now they go and use a story that yours truly thought of and gave it to Lando because he's black. And I thought that instead of just this, there had to be a reason. The shit that JJ put out there in The Force Awakens really was offensive to me. And it was really like there has to be a reason why Han did this, and there has to be a reason because the character has agency. You can't just take that away. Why? And I thought, you know what? Their kid got kidnapped. Their daughter got kidnapped, and he went out to look for her, and didn't come, and wasn't going to come back till he found her, right? And it ends up being Ray. Well, guess what? Fucking J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio decided, and then one of the novelists came up to have Lando go with Luke, not Han. Would never be Han, even though Han's best friends with Luke. Lando's out looking for his daughter, and Luke is out looking for whatever. I'm like, you know what, you fuckers? I should have copyrighted that idea so I could sue you into oblivion. Because this is what should have happened. Instead of having agency, instead of actually being the character and growing and being who we thought Han Solo was, they took it away from him, gave it to Lando because Han Solo's an evil white man. Right? There you go. Luke Skywalker, you know, Ben freaks out, burns the school, Luke runs away. instead of literally kicking Ben's ass, which he could have. He just lets it happen. It's like, you know, this is why it didn't work. So now we've got the Odyssey, which I think is probably going to make some money, sadly, in insulting Western culture. Homer is one of the cornerstones of Western culture. Um, and if you want to see a good show, watch Troy. The casting is accurate. If you read Homer, you know that Achilles is a demigod, that Diana Kruger should look like Helen. But instead, we've got casting by DEI because Christopher Nolan wants a fucking Oscar and he's a guilty white prick and he's pandering to those people. There you go. And I actually thought he was actually kind of a moderate guy that, you know, Michael Caine is a moderate guy, right? Actually, he's pretty conservative. They're friends. I'm like, anyway, I gotta go because I gotta go take care of my horse and see how she's doing, give her her fat food, and I will see you later, hopefully. But I wanted to put this out there because I was just, oh yeah, I mean, you guys are all right. And hey, Dave, Cameron is going to be on Sci-Fi for you with Jason. So I'm going to have that on in the background when I'm hanging out with Kay. So I'll see you guys around the galaxy. But I suggest if you want to watch a movie that at least respects Troy, respects Homer and the Iliad, or the Iliad, watch Troy. Steph, signing out. See you around the